Hello and welcome to this edition of Bison Talks IMPACT, coming to you from the Total Nonstop Impact Network, available on YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, Spotify, and wherever you listen to your favourite shows. And today, I'm joined by the one and only, and I say that, the one and only, Jimmy Jacobs. Hello, Jimmy. How are you?
Hey, I'm fantastic. Yeah, well, we're all one and only. We are all unique individuals, and at the same time, we are one collective. So the same could be said for anybody, and I'm happy to be here. How are you, man?
Oh man, I'm great. I was just saying to you off the air there that we've got a bit of mini heat wave here in the UK. So today, I mean, to you this probably isn't particularly hot, but today was 34 degrees, which is extremely unusual for the UK. So yeah, we've been I shall say we've been enjoying it, even though it's a bit for us. It's been absolutely superb. So thank you for asking.
I'm just gonna Google what 34 degrees is in Fahrenheit. Degrees.
So I think that's in the 80s.
It's 93 Fahrenheit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm in Phoenix now, and it's been 110 here for the past maybe like 2 months. So I don't know, degrees Fahrenheit to Celsius, which is like 43 degrees.
Yes. But what you have, which is a major advantage of us, because you have it more regularly, you have air conditioning.
Yeah, oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so in the UK...
It's super high, but I survive.
That's it. In the UK, we don't have air conditioning as standard because generally we don't have that kind of heat. So when we get it, it's right, we better get all the fans out, and we're rushing around pulling the fans out and getting the fans in every room. Yeah, and that's probably the best we can do really to begin with. But I know what I was going to ask you. The first thing I was going to say to you is obviously I hope you've been keeping yourself safe, fit, and healthy. Over the last few months, because obviously we've got the pandemic going on at the moment all over the world. I mean, it's a unique situation. I mean, what have you been doing to just keep yourself sane, keep yourself fit, healthy, and in a good place?
Yeah, so this everything that's happened with the reaction to what they're calling COVID-19. I moved like right when it happened. I was in Chicago for a couple years. I moved to Phoenix, and I moved right when it happened in the middle of March. And so I didn't know anybody here, and everything was closed down. I was just in a house by myself with my cat. And I kind of had two options. It's either you sort of cave into yourself and just watch Netflix and Hulu all day and, watch catfish reruns, or you go and you use this time to better yourself. And I was fortunate enough to be able to do that, to really do some deep dives, some deep internal dives into myself, into how my mind, body, soul complex operates. And it's been, the past 4 months have been the most enlightening 4 months of my life. So I am healthier and fitter now than I ever have been on every level possible. So it's pretty amazing.
Well, that's fantastic news. That really is, because there's a lot of people out there, I think, that have possibly gone the other way, where it's become all too much for them and stuff like that. So it's great to hear. And I know that you've been doing some really cool videos and stuff where you talk about where you've sort of kind of found like a positive place, through different things like fear and death. And I've been watching these things, and like you say, you can always take these things in a negative way, or you can take them in a positive way. And I think the way that you're describing them, it's been hitting home quite nicely with me, actually, in the way I feel about things, and the way I keep myself sort of kind of on that even keel, and I'm on the right track, I guess.
Yeah, so I'm glad it's resonated with you. I've had a lot of fans reach out to me saying it's resonating with them too, which is good. Anything in front of us is an opportunity. And to me, being home alone, isolated for 4 months was an opportunity. It was an opportunity to do a deep dive on me, on existence, on my health, on all these different levels, spiritually, energetically, physically. And so whatever's in front of you that's a struggle, it's like, good. Congratulations. I know it might not feel it when you're in the midst of it, when you're in the middle of it. it might not feel like it's an opportunity, but it is. Those are the sort of things that life puts in front of us as challenges to then overcome and then grow by it. So whatever you're experiencing right now, that's great. It's perfect. You know, you're in a perfect place, which is awesome. And you can just step back and breathe and go, okay, you know, what's my relationship to this? How can I grow from this? How can I learn from this? And so this time has been great. And I know for some people it hasn't been. Some people, you know, being trapped by themselves or stuck, isolated by themselves has been very difficult. But I'll tell you, being trapped with yourself, that's where all the answers lie. That's the reason, you know, Jesus went into the desert for 40 days and Buddha went alone for 40 days as well. 40 days by yourself. If you don't distract yourself, you will find what's inside of yourself, and that's where all the answers lie.
And there you go. Everything is always inside, right? Everything. Yeah. You just have to tap into it and find it, right?
It's an inside game, and it's crazy because we spend so much of our lives, you know, with this sort of consumerism mentality. And I don't just mean like buying things. I mean consuming ideas and products, and, you know, ideas like, oh, I need to get a job, and I need to go to school, and I need to get married, and I need to do this, and I need to do that, and I need to have a 9 to 5. All these things we consume, these ideas we think we need, and we spend our whole lives going on this external quest to grab this and achieve this. And that's really one big distraction, because you're looking the wrong way. You got to turn, you know, what's looking out of you, you got to look inside of you. And that's that journey to me in my life has been so much more fulfilling than trying to achieve stuff or gain stuff or buy stuff or take stuff.
Yeah, no, definitely. I totally understand that. And you know what? I'm starting to wonder whether it was you that came up with Matt Seidel's inner third eye idea.
No, he's well. That's him in real life.
He is spiritual, isn't he?
Oh yeah, for sure. Matt was the first one to, you know, tell me about ayahuasca experiences and things like that. And so when, you know, being a part of the Impact creative team, you know, Matt was a very, very good in-ring performer, incredible in-ring performer, but always sort of lacked that character. And so we saw how he was, you know, backstage and in real life. It's like, let's bring that person out on screen. And I was very pleased and very proud of seeing Matt's progression from just being a guy that is a very good in-ring performer without a lot of character to somebody who he was never known as a promo guy in his career. And you know, he was never known as a promo guy. And by the time you know, he was finishing up his run with us, he was, to me, one of the best promo guys. He's one of the guys I would say, okay, you have a match with this guy, go. I wouldn't need to really produce him much at all. To see him come out of his shell and blossom was a really wonderful thing.
Yeah, that was amazing. I actually really enjoyed Matt's run with that character. I thought that was really what made him. And in fact, like you say, it was probably the best he'd been as a character for his entire career, really. And I've noticed he is continuing that character on you know, in the indies and the other promotions he's working for, which is also really cool to see. You know, that he's developing that even further. And I guess the more comfortable he's going to get with that, he gets with that character, you know, the more of his personality is going to come out into it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, they say that the best characters are yourself, like turned up to 10. And so while we all have similarities, we all have something in common, it's the uniqueness about us that oftentimes will make you stand out as a character. And that uniqueness of Matt and the journeys he's been on and the experiences that he's had, putting that on screen. And then, you know, once you understand as a performer, once you understand what your character is, like, I love it because I don't have to do any work. And not because I'm lazy, it's that I can never be somebody else's character better than them. It's like, once you know who you are, I can't, you know, I'm not going to write it better. And I saw, you know, Matt had that happen with him, as well as, you know, Taya Valkyrie. I saw that happen with her. She was somebody that, you know, was not a particularly great promo when she first came into Impact Wrestling. And to see her with this character she has now, she's another character that just I don't need to tell her anything. It's like, yeah, you're in this situation, go. And she's got it completely. And to see her go from that, before she was just somebody that didn't have her voice yet, and now to see her have her voice, it's really wonderful. That's one of my favorite things as a producer, as a writer, to see somebody go from not knowing who they are and the thing they don't know who they are, and just helping guide them along just enough to put them in that space where they go, oh, this is me.
Yeah.
Great.
One thing with Taya now is I think you could definitely see that she's enjoying her character. Like, her character's developed so much. I mean, the stuff that she's doing now, like from sort of kind of a promo and acting point of view, like you say, has improved so much from when she first came in and she was that, Taya Valkyrie, the Game of Thrones type, style character. I always felt, and I actually did a character profile of Taya a couple of months back with one of my co-hosts, and we talked about how she always seemed a little bit awkward, a little bit sort of kind of like she wasn't necessarily fully sold on that character. It wasn't really what she was about. But then as soon as she became the character she is now, it was almost like it was a different person, because she'd just suddenly gone, this is it, this is me. And boom, off she went. And she's fantastic. It's one of my favorite characters.
Yeah, she just snapped right into herself. When we brought her back as a babyface in late 2018, she was still just trying to find her voice, and as a babyface, she was just starting to get comfortable. And then I remember we're going to turn her heel maybe about 6 months after we brought her back, like right when she was starting to get comfortable as a baby face. And she came up to me and she's like, what are we doing? You're turning me right now? And she was definitely uncomfortable about, like, hey, she's just getting her bearings as a baby face. But this character, she just really took a hold of it and really made it put herself into it, and you see it, and you see the growth of her as a performer, because she found the character that she, Taya Valkyrie, the human being, the soul, is able to fill out.
Yes, most definitely. Now, I want to take it back a little bit to you, because I don't know. I mean, some people may know and a lot of people may not, but you've had quite a long career, Jimmy, haven't you? I mean, you started off, as a wrestler, and I think it took you a little while to sort of kind of get your own character. I mean, we ended up with the zombie princess, which for me is amazing. I think it's an incredible character. But I'm not sure if a lot of people know, but you had a long career in Ring of Honor, where you were actually a multi-time tag champ, weren't you?
Yeah. It's so weird to me, because I've been around for so long now. I started in 1999, so last millennium. And if I'm at the, I still do shows sometimes. Well, before all these shows shut down recently, and when I would be at the merchandise table and somebody would say, "Oh man, I'm a fan of yours," it was so funny, because I would just never know what they were gonna say. It's like they could say, "Man, I had a guy come up to me. He's like, oh man, I've been watching you for a long time. Like, I was a fan of yours back when you were a writer for WWE." And to me, that was like, that's a couple years ago. Other people would say, "Oh yeah, I used to watch you. Used to go to shows and the independents, back in the early 2000s when you were still on a pogo stick," and just everywhere in between, from the Age of the Fall, the stuff for the Ring of Honor. I would hear all sorts of different things. So yeah, I've had a very long career. I found moderate success as a professional wrestler. Yeah, in Ring of Honor, that would be the highlight of my run. About 10 years there. I was a 5-time Ring of Honor champion, and I was in a tag team with 5 times with the man that became Seth Rollins, and we also teamed together on MTV's Wrestling Society X back in 2007 as well. So yeah, I've had a lot of fun, and I've wrestled in front of next to nobody and small crowds for many years until in 2015 I went to the WWE to join their creative team.
So that's interesting because you literally went from being a wrestler, a professional wrestler, Ring of Honor, to then joining the creative team with WWE. I mean, how did that come about?
I mean, it really came about. I had a moment of clarity it was in July of 2014, in this sort of oneness with the universe. I was in the right alignment to have this realization that I was supposed to be a writer for WWE. Like that's what my calling was. I was never the best in-ring performer, certainly not the best in-ring athlete. And at that time, and look, in 2003 and 4, I could barely keep up with the guys back then, and the in-ring work rate, you would say, just kept getting more and more, and I kept getting older and less good, and it was just never my forte. And then I realized, like, oh, I'm not supposed to be wrestling. I'm supposed to be in creative. That's what this whole thing's been for. It was like when the epiphany hit me, it was so clear. I mean, it was so clear. And the moment I realized that, it was like I'd been hitting my head up against a brick wall for 15 years. And then I just looked over there and I was like, there's a door right there, guys. And just went right through the door, because it was an easy. As soon as I was like, all right, I'm going to WWE to be a writer, there's almost no obstacles at that point. It was just I walked right through the door and went on the team. So
brilliant. I mean, that's fantastic. And of course, we all know that there was obviously a bit of issue. I don't really know. I mean, nobody knows the ins and outs, obviously, except for yourself, on how your departure came about. Unless you want to enlighten us on that. I mean, you're more than welcome to. But you were fired, according to them. So yeah. How did that all pan out?
I'm not even sure I know all the ins. I mean, I don't know all the ins and outs. I only know my experience from it. It was like late September of 2017. I've been working for the WWE as a part of the creative team as a writer for the past 2.5 years, and I'd done a lot of fun stuff. There's a lot of fun times in my run there. I did all the stuff with Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho, and that was some really fun stuff. And just working for WWE, getting that at that point to me, this validation of that's the place you want to be, and finally sort of achieving that. And just being there with my friends, guys like Kevin and Seth and Sami Zayn and Cesaro, just all these guys, and we were all kids once, just trying to make a name for ourselves, and then there we were, just hanging out at WrestleMania, and it was a really great experience. But eventually, I was finding it difficult to work there. I had a stint in rehab in May of 2017, and coming out of that, it wasn't a good fit for me anymore. I did not enjoy working for Vince McMahon, and I did no longer have the drugs as a filter in which to experience working there. Which of course has a certain, let's call it like a numbing effect. It's like you can handle a little bit better sometimes when you're on these sort of drugs, and then not being on them, all of a sudden it's like the world is new. All of a sudden you're experiencing the world different than you did before, and you're just raw and fragile, I'd say, and that was for about 6 months there. That was my experience, going, geez, what am I doing here? This is, I was like Googling like different jobs I could get. I was Googling like new wrestling costumes. Like it just felt to me like the time was up, but I didn't know what to do about that, because it's like, well, what do you do? What do you do when you've worked your whole life to get somewhere? Yeah. You're there, but you just know it's not right anymore. And that was a difficult situation to be in. It's like, what do you do? Do I quit and I go back to the indies? Like, Jimmy Jacobs has been dead for 2.5 years. Nobody knows what he's been doing. Nobody's seen him. He's been off TV, off of shows. He's been in a suit and tie,
Yeah, yeah.
everybody now, backstage, writing promos and producing promos, and it was a valuable experience, and it was a great experience. But it was scary of going, what do I do next? And fortunately, I didn't have to make that decision for myself. Fortuitous events would be that at the end of September of 2017, the Young Bucks showed up outside of the Raw show to shoot something for their Being the Elite YouTube show.
Yeah.
And I went out there to see them. And then right at the end, right as I was about to leave, I said, "Hey guys, let's take a picture together." And I took a selfie with them and Marty Scurll and Adam Page. And I wasn't going to do anything with the picture until, I don't know, a couple hours later. I was in Gorilla, I remember. I was on the headset in Gorilla, and I had my phone on, and I was just like, you know what? And I went and I posted it on Instagram, knowing that it would probably upset somebody, but thinking it probably wasn't that big of a deal.
Yeah.
It's not, there was no talk backstage, or at least where I was, there's no talk backstage of the Young Bucks being out there. It didn't seem like it was even really an issue. And it was kind of like, yeah, it might make some people mad. But at that point, I didn't care, because I didn't care about getting fired or not getting fired. For so long, it was just about what do I do to not get fired? That was for so much. That's I think what most people's, I don't want to speak for everybody, but that seems to be the prevailing process, the thought process there. It's like, what do I do today to not get yelled at by Vince? What do I do today to not get fired? Because there were constant reminders there that you are only one weird interaction with Vince away from getting fired or getting in the doghouse. And it happened, every so often with writers, every few months. It would happen with, I don't know do you remember when what's his name? Titus O'Neil got suspended for grabbing by the arm, and it's just like, and it's Titus, and you're like, what happened? What happened? So people live in fear of having just some sort of weird interaction with Vince, and then getting fired. I had a friend early on, when I first started there, I wasn't scared of Vince until a couple months in, and my friend on the writing team went into Vince's office without knocking, and Vince wanted to fire him for that. And this guy got put in the doghouse for forever because he didn't knock, going into Vince's office. Now, this guy is now one of the lead writers there. He's one of the lead writers of Raw or SmackDown. And so he's a very, very talented guy, but your talent there in WWE tends to not matter as much as Vince's perception of you. And so all this to say, when I took the picture, when I put it online, I didn't really care what would happen. And 10 minutes later, I got brought into a room with my boss and a couple other sort of higher ups of the creative team, with producers, saying, "Hey, what the hell is this?" And Hunter's mad about it. And I sort of said, "Oh man, yeah, sorry, I didn't really think would be a big deal." And I went into Hunter's office. I talked to him, and Hunter was cool about it. And Hunter gave me advice. I don't think it was Hunter that ultimately went to Vince about it. I don't know who it was. I'm guessing it was probably my boss, because he wanted to make Vince aware of it. That would be my guess, because it's his job to make, if Vince had learned some other way, my boss would have been in trouble. So my boss, I'm sure, went to Vince and told him, and Vince probably said, "Oh God, you can't have this guy going out there and taking pictures. You need to get rid of him." That's my guess of how it happened, but I don't exactly know who brought it to Vince, what Vince's reaction was. But ultimately, it led to them letting me go, them firing me. And when they did, it was a little surreal. When I got in trouble, let's call it, when I knew like Hunter was mad, and I talked to him and I saw kind of the big deal it was exhilarating to go. I think in my journal somewhere, it's probably, it's something like I was writing on the bus that night about just the exhilaration of going, oh, I might get fired for this. How exciting is this, that I didn't expect that to happen, but wow, I wouldn't have to be, or feel like I'm tied to something anymore. It would be this liberation, and inevitably that's what it was. It was a relief.
Sorry. Do you know what I find really strange about all of this is that, like in normal sort of walks of life, we all have friends, right? Now, effectively, those guys are your friends, right? So, if I work for, I don't know, an insurance company, and they work for another insurance company, and I see them, and I go, hey, how you doing, guys? I haven't seen you for a while. It's great to see you. And let's take a picture, and you stick it online. You don't get fired. At the end of the day, you are, they're your friends. And now I get that, it's potentially their rivals, or they're trying to create a stink or create exposure for themselves by sort of kind of creating a bit of a fuss in and around a WWE event, for instance. I get that, and clearly it worked because they ended up where they've ended up, doing a fantastic job. They're now backed by Tony. They've got AEW, and it's all doing really well, and they're all top of the tree, which is fantastic for them. But I just think to myself, when you think about it, when you think the bigger picture, how ridiculous is it that someone would potentially fire you for taking a selfie with your mates?
Well, that was a lot of the reaction from the fans, which was good for me on my way out, because it did create some buzz and brought some life into my career coming back to the Indies for at least like 15 minutes, which was super fun. But when I took the picture, like I said, I knew there was a good chance that people would not be happy about it. So there was no sour grapes on my part about it. What they told me was, well, they, the Young Bucks and them were trying to disparage the company, and by you putting this online, this, sort of in turn disparages the company, and there's this sort of policy that you signed to say you wouldn't disparage the company on social media. What I think really is Vince, if he had an issue with me, well, Vince didn't get me. And look, it's his company. It's not his job to get me, right?
No.
But he didn't. He always thought I was a bit eccentric, and he once called me he's like the Nakamura of the writing team, just because he didn't get Nakamura either. That's why they called him the artist. So Vince could be like, oh, he's an artist. That's why he's eccentric, right? So Vince, he would see the way I would dress and sometimes even act, and Vince thought that I was a guy that was trying to get myself over. That was, right. I think, his impression of me, because I wasn't as straight and narrow as the other writers, and Vince wants to have this false corporate sense, especially with the writers of the guys in suit and ties. And now writers on any other shows, just wear whatever they want. They wear sweatpants and hoodies. But Vince wants this perception of this corporate environment, and the writers were part of, as corporate entities, were part of his vision. And he saw me, I think, wearing a pink tie, and it's like, God, it's like, and I have to take my pink tie off. It's like, all right, fine.
Can I just say your impression of Vince is fantastic?
Everybody's got a Vince impression. All I ever wanted when I worked at that company was to not be judged by my eccentricities, but by the value of what I brought to the table, the content of my writing and producing. And that's all I wanted from the day I was there. I saw, Michael Hayes. He got to have his long hair and his crazy suits. And I get it. He's Michael Hayes. He's allowed to do that. But that's all I wanted, was to get to a point where I could just be whatever it is that I am. And they would go, yeah, but he's good at his job. And so when I took this picture, I think there's a part of me that, like a child, was acting out, and honestly wanted to get in trouble, but something like that. But what I really wanted was them to go, yeah, really good at his job, keep him around. Because I was just sick of being in this box. I just wanted to go, oh, this is me. And I think it's part of it. I mean, by the end of my time there, I had video pitch myself as being like the general manager of 205 Live. Like I was just getting antsy. I was getting I wanted to move around. I wanted to like let some of this out and just feeling so constrained there. What I ultimately think I wanted taking that picture was them to say, yeah, he did this, but he's really good at his job. And Vince, I don't know if Vince ever saw that I was really good at my job. I think everybody else saw that, and that's all right. It worked out best for all of us.
That's for sure. I think that at the end of the day, though, some of the stuff that you produced or created with the talents at WWE, like you say, with Chris Jericho, with Kevin Owens, a lot of that stuff was, at the end of the day, some of the best stuff they were doing at the time. So it's kind of, I mean, the list was amazing. So, I know that, you and Chris, I think you probably collectively came up with that together. I'm sure I read something about that somewhere. But it was, at the end of the day, the way that progressed and got created, I think was fantastic. It was amazing. And that, like you say, it just goes to show that, it doesn't matter for instance, like Chris is an older talent, obviously, he's an older talent, but he's an incredible talent. And it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you give them something to run with and they do a great job, right? And I think, obviously, you, as a producer, as a creative person with him, probably gave him a ball and said, look, come on, let's work with this, let's run with this, and see where it goes. And I think that, I've seen an interview somewhere where Chris actually turned around and said that, one of the best creative people that he's ever worked with is you. And at the end of the day, he's a goat, for crying out loud. The guy's a goat. When someone like that says that about you, you've got to sit back and say, wow, you've got to take note. Everyone's got to take note and say, well, Chris Jericho, look at it, he knows what he's talking about. But what I wanted to move on to now was that, obviously you'd left WWE, all of that's now behind you. You had everyone thought you were probably going to end up back in Ring of Honor. You did the little run-in thing and in the audience and all that, which was quite good. I remember seeing that and thinking, yeah, fair play, that's cool. But then everyone was like, oh, he's going to end up with AEW. He's going to end up with AEW, with his mates and his friends and all the rest of it. That's where he's going to end up. But you didn't. You turned up on Impact. Now, I just wonder, that's great for me because I'm a massive Impact fan, always have been. So, when you, decided to go to Impact, what was the reasons? Why was it you decided that Impact was going to be the place where you were going to thrive, you were going to be able to, get your creativity over, and you were going to, you were going to branch out. You were going to be yourself, be able to do your thing.
Yeah, so I did that one appearance for Ring of Honor where I just took an updated selfie with the Elite, and there was plans or an offer for me to come there and be an on-air character for Ring of Honor starting at the end of 2017. In the meantime, Impact Wrestling contacted me. Scott D'Amore, who I'd known since I was like 16, contacted me and said, hey, let's have a conversation, see if you'd be, if we're something you're interested in, and if you're something that we're interested in. And we had a conversation, and I came down to their pay-per-view and TV tapes in Ottawa, Canada, at the beginning of November, and it was just a good fit, man. At that time, they were really in a rebuilding phase, and they were cutting budgets at that point. I mean, I guess I don't know that inside, but just being there, it was obvious that, oh man, they have compared to the TNA that I worked for once in 2006, it had become sort of a skeleton production crew. And so they needed somebody who could wear a lot of hats. And I was somebody that was able to come right in, and on my first day there, start producing stuff and start working on stuff and staying up late with the guys after the shows and working on the next day's shows and also performing on air as a manager. And I just went right into it. There was no like learning curve, because it was really the job I was doing at WWE plus the jobs I had done on the independents, and they needed somebody like that, and I was somebody like that. I am somebody like that, and to this day, I still wear a lot of different hats with the company, and it was just a good fit. And I went, yes, this is right for me right now, and so I've been there now almost in November it'll be 3 years.
Yeah, 3 years. I mean, that just goes to show you must be happy. I'm hoping you're going to say you're happy.
Yeah, it's a good environment to work in. We have a lot of creative freedom. We just did Wrestle House. Having projects like that. I did all the stuff with the Undead Realm. So doing stuff where characters are fighting each other in hell. It's like, yeah, man, I get to go and play, and I like the people I work with, and I don't always agree with my bosses, but that's fine. I'm not demeaned and yelled at, or sort of, I don't know, say made to feel stupid, but something like that. Like, Vince was not a particularly kind individual in my experience. I have no bitterness towards him. Just sharing my experience is I have a lot of gratitude for everything that Vince did for me by having me there and supporting me going through the rehab. He didn't pay for it, but he was supportive in me going there. He was supportive after I came back, all that sort of stuff. So I do have a lot of gratitude for Vince, but not always the easiest guy to work for. And my boss now, it's great to be able to create something that, hey, sometimes maybe it's not the best, and that's okay. It's like, it's okay to make that mistake. It's not, when you're in an environment like WWE is, people are scared to make mistakes. And if you're scared to make a mistake, you're not going to try to do the thing that is going to be the thing that is captivating, because you're going, well, what if this fails? What if this is no good? What if Vince yells at me? What if he fires me? So let me just do the thing that in here that I know Vince is going to yell at me for, even though this will probably be better, but just let's stay safe. You have a lot of guys there that are just playing it safe.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. I think what you're saying there is what a lot of people have said that I've spoken to that obviously work for Impact, that they feel that they are able to kind of, be themselves. They're able to build their own character and blossom, and they have input into their storylines, into their characters, and they feel that they're listened to, even if it's like you say, even if not everything you put forward is necessarily, we're going to do that. It might be, I'm not too sure on that one, but I quite like what you said here, or, this might work, or I'm not too sure on that, but, and I think that is a good thing for everybody as a whole, because you're finally going to get the best out of your characters, the best out of your employees, if you are supportive and allow people to just blossom as people. What I like is that when I watch Impact, I actually love watching some of those characters that sometimes I've not necessarily been so sold on to begin with, but then you get this kind of slow build, and then eventually you're like, man, these guys are awesome, and I never realized it until now. That for me was a bit. That was like we were talking about Taya Valkyrie earlier. That I was a bit like that with Taya, and I was also a little bit like that with Rohit Raju. Whereas now I think Rohit is amazing, and his promo stuff. I don't know whether you've seen, but I did an interview with Rohit. It's actually the very first interview I ever did, and I got him to cut a promo on me in the interview, and straight off the cuff, and it was brilliant. It was brilliant. And he said to me that he literally walks around the house just like promoing away, just getting ideas and throwing stuff in. Now, I noticed you said earlier that you have a journal. So when you're sort of kind of, in your, state of thinking about stuff, or, you're just generally going about life and you see something that you think, hey, that might work on a wrestling show, or that might work as a storyline or whatever. Do you have a book or anything like that you just sort of kind of like write ideas down, or are you able to just basically keep everything in your head? I mean, how does your creative process work?
Yeah, I certainly used to do that, and I recommend that for talent that's trying to really trying to make it, is to have a notebook, and if you listen to a song lyric that you like, great, or if there's an advertisement that like something hits you just right, or if you see a guy in the airport and you go, man, I don't like that guy for some reason, what is it? And you take that aspect of things from whatever, real life or TV shows or something like that. Nowadays in my life, wrestling holds a different space than it used to. It's not something that I obsess over, and thus it's not some my daily life. So it just holds a different space than it used to. When I work, and then when I'm not working, I don't work. And my philosophy now in wrestling, it's funny, and this is the last time we'll bring up WWE, but in WWE, it was like you try to make the best segment possible based on the parameters that Vince gives you. And now my philosophy is I try to write the best TV possible while everybody's enjoying themselves. That's what I want. I just want people to enjoy themselves while they're at work, and enjoy themselves as, and feel fulfilled to be a part of the process, and like you said, to feel heard. And anytime somebody has an idea, I'm always open to hear it. Again, doesn't mean it's always going to happen, but I always, like I said, I love the input from other people. It does help the creative process.
Yes, without doubt, because at the end of the day, I'm it might seem a bit strange, but I actually do choreography and design for a performing arts group. So and I always think about creativity is almost, it is a box. It is a box, okay? So, but it's not like a box in a sense of like everything stays inside the box. I use the box as kind of like all the different corners and all the different points, and my idea is to try and hit all those different points in my creativity, rather than I'm not saying you can't go outside that box, but what I'm saying is you have that there, and if you go this way, it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't go that way or this way or that way or that way, or that, you know what I mean? So it kind of, there's nothing that should be able to stop you, as long, and if someone comes to you and says, yeah, what about this? Now, sometimes that initial idea may not be what you were going down that lines, but what it could do is then spark an inspiration to take it to another level or another place, right?
Of course, ideas are rarely, started and then end up on the screen completely untouched. Generally speaking, it's a co-collaborative process. So you're going to get different hands in there, and that's fine. That's fine. It doesn't need to muddy things up. A lot of times it makes things better. If I give talent the base for what we're going to do, generally speaking, because they're themselves and they're very emotionally invested into it as well, can bring that to life and make that really blossom and make that spark. That's one of the things, on the writing team. It's like we've got, I've got whatever, 40 or 50 characters to write for, and 9 segments of TV an episode, and then whatever. This week, I'm in the middle of writing, with the team, like 8 different episodes of TV, and so we've got like a ton of different pieces, and there's a lot to do, and you've got 10 different stories, at least 10 different stories, and so a lot of times each individual moment of each individual segment doesn't have the hands-on creative care that the talent would have for it. right? Because I'm worrying about a ton of stuff, and we're putting together a ton of stuff. So it always helps when the talent can sort of see what we're going for and then add their spark to it, add their flavor to it, add themselves into it, and that's really how a lot of great stuff is created. And sometimes the initial ideas come from the talent too. The Wrestle House idea was initially Rosemary's, and she came up with it back in like March. I hit her up asking if she had any ideas, and she had like some idea for, I don't know, a match or something like that. And I was like, no, I'm talking about, you have anything like out of the box? Because it was just when the COVID stuff started happening, and we didn't know if we're gonna have crowds or not, and like, is there something out of the box we have? And she came up with what she called Quarantine, which I like, which have like 10 or 12 wrestlers in a house at that time. And it took us a couple months of sort of planning and figuring out how to do it and if we're going to do it. And I'm really glad that we did. But that was the whole idea that I sort of
Oh, I think we've lost you. You still there, Jim? I can. Good. Sorry, I could see you, but I couldn't hear you for a minute.
Okay.
No worries. So we were talking about Wrestle House. It was Rosemary's idea, and basically you sort of kind of took that idea and turned it into Wrestle House.
Well, I took the idea, kind of sold it to the creative team, and then me and Don Callis started riffing off of it, and then inevitably or ultimately Robert Evans was the one who really brought it to life. Robert Evans was infamous in quitting WWE as a writer in Guerrilla during the Hall of Fame of 2019, I think it was. And he's a super creative guy. We worked together on the Independents and Ring of Honor in WWE as both as writers and now at Impact Wrestling. And he was the one that really brought that to life. So you see a lot of different people's, from Rosemary's idea to a few of the guys, spitballing it, to putting it together, to one guy then making a clear vision, to and then producing it. And then you've got the guys in post-production that are putting it together. So really, you have a lot of different people, and hopefully you get people that are very good at what they're doing, and and together you sort of create a vision.
Yeah, without doubt. I think Wrestle House is fun. I think that I wasn't so sure. I wasn't sold on the very first episode that it aired, because I thought it was just too much. I thought there was too much of that and not enough Impact Wrestling, if that makes sense. However, then I thought, but then the following episode was kind of, for me, was exactly what I thought it should have been. So, it was those smaller snippets kind of coming in, and I love the idea of the matches. I think, with the last one on Tuesday last week, which I'm trying to think which episode that was now, was the one where Rosemary and Smiley Kylie Ray had theirs, and Kylie takes Rosemary's nose, and stuff like that. And I think there's too many people out there that sometimes take the comedy stuff too seriously. Like, a good wrestling show has, a bit of badass hardcore wrestling. It has, a bit of high flying and a bit of, fun. It has the female wrestlers doing their thing, but it has to have the light humor. If you don't have that little bit of light humor to mix it up a little bit, where's the variety in the show? It's an entertainment product at the end of the day, so you have to be entertained.
Yeah, everybody has their own preference, and Wrestle House was especially a vehicle in this environment where we're not really allowed to have fans, an audience, which an audience, wrestling without an audience really takes away. I mean, that's a huge part of it, right? Imagine if Rock and Hogan were staring at each other without an audience. It's just not the same thing. It's just two guys looking at each other. And so during this period, we had the opportunity of trying to figure out different presentations of our product, and Wrestle House was one of those things. And I think the episodes they get better as they go along because the writing was so good. And I wish I could say I wrote it, but I didn't. I was a fan of the writing because like these bits, they play off each other and these things pay off, and it's very clever and it's entertaining, I think, if you want to go on the ride. Now, if you don't want to go on this ride, like there's no hope, right? If you don't want to at least go, okay, let me try this flavor, you're not going to like it. But if you're willing to go on the ride, I think it's a fun ride to go on. But yeah, we just try to give a little something for everybody. Impact Wrestling, we try to give like cohesive storytelling in intricate manners where we're not insulting your intelligence. And so we have the way that we try to do things. And yeah.
Okay, so no, I think you guys, I think you do a great job. I really do. I'm highly entertained all the time, and I think over the last 3 years, it's gone from, like you say, this sort of kind of cost cutting, getting rid of everybody, and then this whole rebuild all the way up to where we're hitting at this moment in time. And I said on a solo cast that I did a little while ago, post Slammiversary, that it's almost like, although, yes, that COVID is not, I'm not saying COVID is a good thing because it's not a good thing, but it's almost like it's helped Impact in a sense of that everyone is doing shows without a crowd. So that puts Impact on exactly the same playing field as everybody else. So when you watch the show, you can actually turn around and go, actually, this is actually really good. These guys are really, really good. And because you're all on the same playing field, everyone's all in the same boat, I think that is now what has really helped Impact to shine over the last 3 or 4 months. I mean, I don't know whether you agree, I don't know, but that's kind of how I feel, that, because we're all in the same boat, we're all trying to do, our best during this time, put on the best TV we possibly can. And I think Impact have shined. I think you guys have done an amazing job all the way across the board. Everything is improved. Everything. I don't know what you think, but that's exactly how I feel about the product.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely an interesting take. I mean, certainly we weren't drawing crowds like WWE or AEW in these large arenas, and so now there is a bit more of an even playing field, I guess, as far as audience or not having audience goes. I'm partial, of course, because I work for the company. I think everybody that works for the company they work for always feels like, oh man, we've got guys that work really hard and we've got some product going on. And yeah, I mean, I know that Slammiversary had a lot of new eyes on it. A lot of people that hadn't watched Impact Wrestling for a very long time saw Slammiversary, watched the product for the first time. We're just hoping to keep some of those eyes and check out what they've been missing. TNA at a time was such it was a hot product in the wrestling business, and they really burned the wrestlers and they burned the fans over and over and over again. And I think if you've been a fan of Impact for the past 3 years that I've been there, if nothing else, what we've tried to do is not burn you, to not make you feel stupid for watching, to not promote something and then give you less than that, not do bait and switches, not give you screw finishes on pay-per-views and things like that, but just give you something where you go, you know what, this Impact Wrestling is pretty good.
Yeah.
And that's what we've tried to do, and have some fun with it too.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think you guys are doing a fantastic job. Long may it continue. That's all I've got to say on that. Do you know what? We've talked more about wrestling than I thought we were going to do, actually. And I'm really pleased with that, because obviously being a big wrestling fan, that's fantastic. But what I want, just before we sort of kind of start to finish up, because I know that we're running out of time. I know you're busy. So I just want to talk a little bit more about your philosophical side, shall we say. I think that's the way I look at it, your philosophical side. I know we hit on it a little bit in the beginning. But I find it fascinating because, like I said, a lot of the things that I've been watching on those little short sort of 2-minute videos that you've been putting out on Twitter, I've only been seeing them on Twitter. Have you been putting them out anywhere else?
And Instagram as well, yeah.
Yeah, I found them incredibly insightful. They've actually kind of almost validated some of the things that I kind of feel as a person myself. And it's almost like, oh, that's interesting, because like I've often thought about things like that, and he's sort of kind of saying the things that possibly I was thinking. And I think it's yeah, and I think it's interesting. I think, and from what I can see as well, I think you're hitting home to a lot of the wrestling fans, or just a lot of people that know you, because you haven't been that busy on. So I don't think you've been around Twitter and Insta that much until recently. You sort of kind of shied away from it for a little while, didn't you?
Yeah, I took a 7-month hiatus. I deactivated all my social media back in December, and I was called to come back on social media just to share some of my experience with people, and for the people that relate to it, or that it resonates with, great, because these are some of my experiences and the things I've learned from my experiences. I would recommend to a lot of people if it's in front of them for them to do, because we all tend to live in these stories, and these stories have this suffering, and sometimes this needless suffering, and we don't know how to get out. We feel like we're trapped. We feel like this is just life. There's no way out. This is just sucks. Life sucks. This is hard, and this sucks, and this is hard. And look, I was there too at one point in my life.
Yeah.
But I was given the gift of gaining a new perspective, and it took a long time to get there. It took a lot of unlearning. What I've done the last 3 years of my life is really, more than anything else, is just unlearn so much, which has allowed me to sort of navigate my life and just gain so much peace and fulfillment, and even happiness, let's say, and so just whatever I can share with people that will be of benefit to them, I'm happy to do.
Yeah, no, I think that's amazing, and it's not an easy thing to do, is unlearn things, right?
No, it's not, because you're literally programmed with things. As your brain develops as a child, when trauma happens, and I don't mean necessarily like trauma, like what they call big T trauma, like abuse, sexual abuse, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
That does, of course, have an effect on your brain. But even little T trauma, which is just any time your needs aren't met as a child, or you perceive that your needs aren't met as a child, you develop these false beliefs and these coping mechanisms as your brain's developing. So then you grow up, you go on in life and you grow up in life. And because you have this coping mechanism and this false belief as a child, you tend to carry it all the way through adulthood. So,
that's right.
For example, and I've got to cut this quick here, and I got to go in a second here, but just for example, if you didn't get enough attention as a child from your parents, got attention when you and then as a child, your parents didn't pay attention when you act out, and as a child you equate attention with love. All of a sudden, you play that out for the next 30, 40 years of your life. You'll be in relationships and start fights in order to get attention from your partner, because you have attention with love. And so to deprogram that, to unlearn that, to go inside the subconscious, which, trust me, your subconscious, it runs the show. And if you don't know that, then definitely trust me, your subconscious runs the show. And so
yes, it does.
Inner child work, that shadow work, all that sort of stuff, it's quite the journey.
Okay. Well, I'm conscious that we're running out of time. I know that you've got a lot of stuff going on. So to be honest, it's been absolutely incredible talking to you today, Jimmy. I must admit, I'm really excited to see where, the more stuff the philosophical stuff that comes up. I'm excited to see that, and I'm also excited to see where you and the creative team on Impact goes over the coming months and hopefully years with you there, because I think so far over the last 3 years it's been an incredible journey for all of us Impact fans, and I'm so pleased that you decided that Impact was your spiritual home. I think maybe that's where we're going with this. But yeah, no, that's absolutely fantastic. Well, I think that's it for today. Hope you enjoyed listening to my special guest, Jimmy Jacobs. Jimmy, I know obviously, like I've said before, you weren't particularly active on the socials before, but you are getting a little bit more active. Where can we find you?
It's Jimmy Jacobs X on both Instagram and Twitter. And if you want to hear me talk about, just life's great. I love it. So,
you want to see you?
Thank you for being a fan of Impact, and thank you for having me on today.
No worries, no problem. Okay, so don't forget to follow me on Twitter. That's at LordBison45. And make sure to follow the total Nonstop Impact Network at We Talk Impact. And make sure you give us a sub on YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you listen to your favourite shows. Be sure to leave us a thumbs up and a comment to let us know how we're doing. And certainly a comment about my interview today with the fantastic Jim Jacobs. So take care, everybody, and until next time, goodbye from me. I think that's a goodbye from Jimmy. And this has been Bison Talks Impact with my special guest, Jimmy Jacobs.